I might not be mad if somebody comes up here and starts to like do crazy shit to me. I don't know
Oh,
what my dogs are doing, but maybe it's like some sexy guy hanging out outside of my window or something.
lots of growling, lots of barking,
Yes.
and from the dogs too.
Exactly. Oh, I was going to ask you, are you going to introduce us tonight since I'm telling the story, or would you
Oh,
rather me
sure.
do
Yeah, I can do that. I might do an abbreviated version of like the series because I felt kind of long.
it? Okay,
Should I just do it?
go for it.
Oh, let me find it first. Wouldn't that be helpful if I knew?
I can't believe that I don't have this memorized by now, but then again, I do because the spatial area of my brain is not very. It's kind of overloaded at this point.
Well, it's sort of like phone numbers. Like we don't need to remember them anymore.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
we have our welcome script right in front of us, so why bother? I don't have
Anyway,
same as you. I just don't have a lot of space left, so I'm not going to fill it with this.
yes, and all of my short-term memory is just gone.
Exactly. And listener, welcome to Forbidden, the podcast where we discuss the disgusting, the dark, and the disgraceful in our unmentionables. And so we have slipped into something more comfortable, and we hope that you are doing the same. I am Blake Roberts,
And I'm Amanda Kamada.
and this is our limited series, Corruption. Get ready to explore the chilling overlap of crime and power as we uncover the cases where I needed a drink first. Just got parched all of a sudden. As we uncover the cases where true crime meets political intrigue. From high profile scandals and criminal conspiracies to unsolved mysteries with ties to the corridors of power, we're investigating the hidden stories shaping our society.
This has been a very fun series so far, and I want to let you know that we've had quite a few views on your story about the Capitol riots. Very good one. And you know what's interesting is I closed our latest episode, or that last episode, with wondering how many people were going to get pardoned from this and after Trump takes office. And I actually saw a story about that the other day. So, yes, indeed, I believe that is going to happen. But if you haven't listened to our 96th episode about the Capitol riots, definitely give it a listen. It's a good one. So, a little bummed that YouTube pulled our still on that. I still don't understand what was up with that, but
It's like
anyway.
it was sexually explicit, and I will say there was a shot of my crotch in there.
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't think it was particularly sexual in nature,
Mm-mm.
but I mean I am pretty erotic.
Well, here's the thing. I thought your abs looked great in it, in the picture. I put it on Facebook and everything's flowing just fine. So your crotch is out there on Facebook. So thank you, Facebook, for allowing us to put that still shot on there.
It's on my
Um,
resume. It is I'm going to use it as my Christmas card for this year when it's time.
yes. Yeah.
Everyone can see it now.
LinkedIn profile, all that good stuff.
Exactly. Hire me.
So, in the last episode, I gave you three hints, and those were Mississippi, Elvis, and envelope. You seem to be a little bewildered as to what this could be. But before I start tonight, because we always are talking about what we are drinking, I wanted to introduce you to the state spirit drink of Mississippi, which is Mississippi Punch. For those of you who don't know, it's a cocktail that includes French cognac, American bourbon, Jamaican or British rum, Spanish lemons, sugar, and freshly squeezed lemon juice. Now, did I make that for myself this evening? No. That was a little too much for me. Not too much alcohol. There's never enough alcohol. But it just seemed a bit complicated. So I'm starting out my evening with a vodka soda, a tall one at that.
Well, cheers. I am drinking in honor of our theme of red, white, and blue. American politics. I am drinking red wine,
Awesome. Awesome.
and it's from the U.S. Yes, this is a U.S. wine. I can't remember where it's from, but it is.
So Mississippi Punch. Make it sometime. It sounds like it could put you into a big bender pretty quickly.
Sounds
with
like
that.
it could put me in a really bad situation for myself.
Yeah, or maybe a
And,
good situation. Who knows?
exactly.
But my sources for tonight, we're going to be talking about, it's a Mississippi story, obviously. My sources tonight are Wikipedia, www.health.newyork.gov, and I watched a Netflix 3-part docuseries called The Kings of Tupelo, a Southern crime saga. So tonight we're going to be talking about the 2013 Ricin letters. Do you know what Ricin is?
I do know this one.
You do.
I'm pretty sure. I probably don't know like the full thing, but yeah, ricin is a poison.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And I'll get into that in a little bit because I have quite an extensive, learning about ricin for everybody. But basically, on April 9th, 2015, an elephant was shot in a drive-by shooting that belonged to the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus in Tupelo, Mississippi, by a subject in a white Ford vehicle. So that was on April 9th. An elephant got shot. Kind of random. I'll have my thoughts about that at the end. The next day, on April 10th of 2013, a letter with a white powder substance was received by Mississippi Justice Court Judge Sadie Holland of Lee County. So Lee County has a population of 83,343, according to the 2020 census, and its county seat is Tupelo. It's included in the Tupelo Micropolitan Statistical Area. So we have metropolitan. I never heard of the word micropolitan, which means small.
That's new.
Yes. So Judge Holland, who was the first person to receive this, was immediately rushed to the hospital, and the envelope was sent straight to the FBI for testing. So that was on April 10th. On April 15th of 2013, an envelope that preliminarily tested positive for ricin was intercepted at the U.S. Capitol's off-site mail facility in Washington, D.C., and the envelope was addressed to the office of Mississippi Republican Senator Roger Wicker and caused the immediate evacuation of the U.S. Capitol building. So a big deal. And 2 days later, or less than 48 hours later, on April 17th of 2013, an envelope addressed to President of the United States, Barack Obama, preliminary tested positive for ricin. Both letters that were received in Washington, D.C. were postmarked from Memphis, Tennessee, which is very close to Tupelo, Mississippi, and included the following, quote, "No one wanted to listen to me before. There are still, quote, missing pieces. Maybe I have your attention now, even if that means someone must die. This must stop. To see a wrong and not expose it is to become a silent partner to its continuance." And then was signed off, quote, "I am Casey and I approve this message." I love that. That they ended it with like, "I am Casey and I approve this message."
With their own endorsement.
Yes. The exact same day, so on April 17th of 2013, a man by the name of Paul Kevin Curtis had his home raided by the CIA, FBI, Secret Service, Homeland Security, and was arrested. He was held initially for 12 hours of interrogation and was told, quote, "You're going to go to prison for life for use of a weapon of mass destruction and conspiracy to commit murder for the ricin letters mailed in." So, what is ricin? From the New York Department of Health. Ricin, and this is all straight medical stuff from the New York Department of Health. So, ricin is a chemical poison present in castor beans. As a terrorism agent, ricin can be used as a powder, a mist, a pellet, or can be dissolved in water or weak acid. So castor beans are grown and processed throughout the world to make castor oil. I don't really know what you use castor oil for, but it sounds like something that old people use to me for some reason.
Like to season your iron skillet or something.
Yeah, or maybe you drink it to get a bowel movement or something.
Oh,
I
okay,
think that is what it is.
oh, hang on. One more source is healthline.com. 4 benefits and uses of castor oil. I'll make this quick. Okay, we're just gonna do number 1. It's a powerful laxative.
Gotcha.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So ricin is part of the waste mash produced when castor oil is made. It has some potential medical uses in treating cancer. And so how can people be exposed to ricin? Accidental exposure is highly unlikely. Says it would take a deliberate act to use it as a poison. People can be poisoned by breathing in ricin mist or powder, and also by swallowing contaminated food or water. Depending on the route of exposure, such as injection, the amount of ricin that would fit in the head of a pin could be enough to kill an adult if it's injected. That is not a lot. Sounds
Crazy.
worse than fentanyl.
Yeah.
Because ricin is a chemical poison, the illness it causes cannot be spread from person to person. However, contact with ricin contaminated surfaces or people may transfer from person to person and cause illness. So if I had ricin poisoning, I couldn't give it to you. But if we were both in an office and got a letter mailed and there was ricin in it, we could both be exposed to it.
So you couldn't give it couldn't be sexually transmitted.
Exactly,
That's
exactly. So that's good. Specific effects of ricin poisoning depend on whether the ricin was inhaled, swallowed, touched, or injected. So we'll talk about inhalation because this is the method that was used with these letters because it was a powder, right?
I prefer swallowing myself.
Swallowing the contaminated ricin
Yes.
with water or some other agent.
Some other substance.
Mhm. So within inhalation, what happens is within a few hours of inhaling significant amounts of ricin, the likely symptoms would be respiratory distress, fever, cough, nausea, and tightness in the chest. Heavy sweating may follow, as well as fluid buildup in the lungs, which is pulmonary edema, which would make breathing more difficult, and your skin might turn blue. Finally, low blood pressure and respiratory failure may occur, leading to death. It usually, if you are going to die from it, it takes place within 36 to 72 hours of exposure. However, if you don't die within 5 days and you don't have complications within 5 days, you're usually good.
Wow.
So that is ricin. And it's pretty scary to me, when I was learning about this, because it sounds like it's pretty easy to make, if ricin is the mash that's left over from castor oil.
Wait, let me grab a pencil. Tell me the recipe.
The recipe for ricin. So let's talk about Tupelo, Mississippi for a moment. Do you know much about Tupelo, Mississippi?
I have driven through Tupelo multiple times.
You have. So you understand where we're talking about here. So Tupelo, for those of you who do not know, is a city in the county seat of Lee County, Mississippi. Founded in 1860, the population was 37,923 at the 2020 census. It's the birthplace of Elvis Presley, and he is literally treated like a god there. And there are Elvis impersonators everywhere of every kind. And Paul Kevin Curtis, who was arrested for the ricin letters, was one of them. A little about Paul. Paul Kevin Curtis, who went by Kevin, was also born in Tupelo and was a shy, geeky kid with glasses, and much like Elvis, was a mama's boy. He spent most of his childhood locked in his room practicing to be Elvis. So I think that was just something, I guess, where you grew up and Elvis is a god, you want to be Elvis. When he was 14 years old, his mom bought him one of those Elvis jumpsuits, and he started competing in and winning talent shows. And shortly after this, his older brother, whose name was Jack, also became an Elvis tribute artist. So ran in the family. So a little about Elvis. When Elvis was born, some people don't know this, but he was actually a twin, and his twin brother was stillborn. So the Curtis brothers then had an idea to perform together as a two Elvis show and called themselves Double Trouble. That was their band. And it took off, actually, even gaining them notoriety in the Guinness Book of World Records. And Kevin's wife even joined the band. Aside from the band, though, the brothers couldn't be more different. Jack ran the successful insurance business, while Kevin had a difficult time finding and holding down a job until he opened up his own cleaning business. He hated doing it, but it was successful for him, and he even secured a large client, the North Mississippi Medical Center, which was a large regional hospital that was federally funded. So all was going well with his cleaning business until December 17th of 1999. He was invited to a Christmas party there at the hospital. And someone came up to him and told them they had an emergency, that they needed someone to go immediately to the morgue as they had a backup flood and blood was coming out of the drains in the floors.
Ew.
And nobody wanted to deal with it. So they sent him in to do it. After cleaning this up, he looked into the morgue freezers where he found several sets of body parts that were not intact. So heads, limbs, etc. We've done a story about this before.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. So what had he stumbled upon? He was obviously freaked out and told everyone on his shift what had happened afterwards. So shortly after he made this discovery and started telling people about it, he was called to the hospital's director's office, and they wanted him to sign and authorize a form that he had been in the morgue illegally and therefore would be banned for life from the hospital. And he refused to do so.
It seems wrong to be banned from a hospital. Like, what if you need
What if you
hospital
need
service?
medical care? Isn't there a Hippocratic oath that doctors take that hospitals need to kind of, operate under as well? Like,
Yeah.
that was kind of my thought. But he refused to sign it, and therefore he was on the local government radar all of a sudden.
Mm.
He then decided he wanted to uncover the truth of what was going on at the hospital with those body parts. And he bought a computer. He bought a Gateway 2000. This was
Ooh,
1999.
taking it back.
Yeah, a Gateway 2000. And began researching the dark web about the conspiracy theories behind illegal trade of body parts. He eventually even started his own blogs and websites. And by 2002, he had about 40 sites dedicated to the subject, as well as having different followers. So he had different sites like his own sites and blogs, but then he was posting on things like MySpace and, those sorts of platforms about this conspiracy that he thought that they were moving body parts out of this hospital.
Why would anyone invest that much time in a project, a creative project that makes them no money, Amanda?
I don't know. They must be idiots.
What would that be like?
Who knows? His obsession with the conspiracy of selling body parts did not make him any friends locally. He even drafted a House bill resolution to stop trafficking of human body parts trade in Mississippi and sent letters to both Senator Roger Wicker in D.C. Now, remember, he's one of the people who received the Ricin letter, but he sent this resolution to Roger Wicker in D.C. He sent it to Barack Obama at the White House, as well as Republican Mississippi State Representative Steve Holland, who just happened to also be the owner and funeral director of 3 of the largest funeral homes in the area and a pro-organ donor in his own right.
Mm.
So he was stirring the pot a little bit locally in Tupelo with this whole conspiracy theory about the body parts. And, like I said, we did that story on the illegal body parts trade, and we know now that it happened. But this was 1999. This was before this became like a big thing, right?
Yeah, it sounds far-fetched.
Yeah, back in the day.
Mhm.
He was told by someone in a position of authority, quote, you're going to make the wrong people mad at you, end quote. So because of his obsession with this, his marriage crumbled as a result of the conspiracy theories. He has conspiracy theories about 9/11 and those sorts of things too. His car burst into flames one day. He was absolutely, set on somebody had blown up his car, but it was blamed on a faulty battery, and his house burned down. Now, his ex-wife claimed that she caused it by leaving chicken on the stove, but he thought it was part of the local conspiracy to shut him down because he was talking about these body parts.
Hmm.
He even began writing a book called, quote, Missing Pieces that he posted online. Made me think of
Cool
your
title.
Reese's Pieces.
Oh yeah, Reese's Pieces. That was a good story, which is Talk of Shame number something from a
Yes.
long time ago.
Yes. So during this time, like this has gone on for a number of years, right? Because it's 1999 when he saw the body parts. By 2002 is when he's really going online heavy with it. He started writing a book and posting like excerpts on that online, wanting someone to print it. But during this time, he was arrested nearly 25 times. Once for assault on a local district attorney, David Daniels, with a beer bottle. He was sentenced to 6 months in jail by Judge Sadie Holland, who was the mother of State Representative Steve Holland, who owned the funeral homes. And Judge Sadie Holland was the first one to receive the Ricin envelope. So you can see where this is kind of going here. He was also briefly committed to a psychiatric ward. This man's life was basically spiraling out of control for 14 years. So let's cut back quickly to his arrest for the Ricin letters. They were sent to that judge in Mississippi, Sadie Holland, to Senator Roger Wicker, and to Barack Obama in Washington, D.C. And let's also remember he was held for the first 12 hours. And in that time, he was asked repeatedly about the Ricin, and he was being hammered by, federal agents, of course.
That sounds
with this.
sexy.
It does sound sexy, actually. I'd like to be hammered by a hot federal agent.
Yeah, keep the suit on.
Yes, Secret Service.
Oh, I would love to be serviced.
Yes. In that time, he was asked repeatedly about the Ricin, and his response was, quote, rice, I don't even like rice. He had no idea what they were talking about. They noted that when they raided his home, they found no Ricin making materials, so no lab equipment, etc. And frankly, after talking to him for 12 hours, didn't think he was smart enough to do the chemistry involved to make Ricin even.
Stupidity pays off.
Yes. So they asked if he had any enemies. And so we know by now that he has lots of local political enemies due to his conspiracy theories about the body parts. But he mentioned one name, James Everett Dutschke, a well politically connected martial arts teacher and insurance salesman. So he remained in custody. So he gave them this guy's name. His name's James Everett Dutschke, but he went by Everett Dutschke. I don't know all these people go by their middle names. I don't know why in the South, but
oh, that's such a thing.
yeah,
That's such a thing.
yeah.
Or it'll be like first initial, like J. Matthew something, Howerton the third.
The third, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Especially like somewhere like Mississippi, I can totally see that. It's so like uptight. So they made him remain in custody and even continued with court hearings while authorities started looking into Everett Dutschke. So Everett Dutschke had a childhood where he didn't fit in and hung out mostly with adults. Music and karate were his outlet. He was even in the Olympics at one time for karate. He moved to Tupelo, Mississippi as an adult after spending 2 years away. Now, that 2 years away in the docuseries, they had a phone call with him, and he said he was away doing things. So I don't know what those things were. They never really made it clear, but it almost sounded like he was doing something secretive or something. But he spent 2 years away, kind of traveling and that sort of thing, and then moved to Tupelo, Mississippi. But he wasn't from there. He was an outsider in the community, and moving to a place like that where people, it's a small town, everybody knows each other, everyone is politically connected in some sort of way. He wanted to find a way to sort of integrate himself into the community. So he opened up his own karate taekwondo studio, and he got a second job selling insurance at Jack Curtis's agency for a bit. So, but what would a motive be for someone like that to send Ricin letters? Like, how did he come up instead of the other Curtis guy? Well, he worked at the Curtis's brother Jack's insurance agency for a bit. So they started piecing things together, starting with the insurance company. He told everyone there that he was a member of Mensa. And Mensa is international, is the largest and oldest high IQ society in the world. It's a nonprofit organization open to people who score at the 98th percentile or higher on standardized, supervised IQ or other approved intelligence tests. I am not a part of Mensa. I know that shocks you.
You have a membership with Menzies. It's a different organization.
Very different organization. And I barely have any meetings with them anymore because I'm so old. So he met Kevin Curtis through Jack Curtis's agency, and they agreed that, quote, Mississippi has its problems and he wanted to clean it up. He claimed to be a descendant of William Blount, who was one of the early signers of the Constitution.
Oh, yes, the Blounts.
Yes, the Blounts, famous ones. Yes. I don't know anything about the Constitution. I mean, I know there is a Constitution. I couldn't tell you who signed it.
John Hancock.
Yeah, I do know that because it's like, put your John Hancock on something.
That and cock.
Hancock, yes. So Dutschke always looked up to politicians as like a jack of all trades. He met Senator Wicker dozens of times, as well as other politicians, mostly conservative. And he decided to run for Congress against Steve Holland in the 2007 election. And one of his mottos was, send him back to the funeral home. His campaign, however, started as a disadvantage because he was an outsider. So he started growing his studio. It became the top karate school in the region, and he even got National Instructor of the Year in karate. What was really weird, though, is Kevin started, after he met him, started taking karate lessons himself, but not from Everett. He was just trying to sort of emulate him, which was a little bit weird. But Everett also had a band called Robodrum, and he formed that with a couple of people, and they performed at places like Six Flags and stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess that's better than what we're doing, so I can't beef on him too much.
We have not been invited to Six Flags in our underwear.
No, we have not. Everett Dutschke was also a conspiracy theorist. He thought George Bush had a part in 9/11. And Kevin, though, wanted him to print his book about body harvesting, but had a feeling Everett didn't like him. And he didn't. He thought his ideas were total nonsense and ignored Kevin's calls and emails. And this came to a head once when Kevin confronted Everett at a restaurant during a team lunch that he was having with his coworkers at the insurance company, including Kevin's ex-wife, Laura, because he thought that they had something going on. So, like I said, Kevin started getting a little bit wild, and Everett said that he was actually becoming a Dutschke impersonator. He would Photoshop himself on his photos online. So he would find pictures of Everett Dutschke and actually photoshopped himself into the photos, like his face, superimposed his own face on them. And the last straw in their feud was he posted a fake Mensa certificate for himself on MySpace, Facebook, etc. And the feud grew from there. So these
That's
two
amazing.
guys hated each other, right? So remember that Dutschke was running against Holland for this election. He lost the election by a landslide, then went sort of dead silent for a few years. And after the election, he felt like the political leaders that he knew turned their back on him. So cut back to 2013. So 2007 was when he lost this race for Congress against Holland. Cut to 2013, 15 days before the Ricin letters, he was arrested for indecent exposure. He was masturbating in his window in front of a school bus. He was also charged with underage fondling, and then a felony crime with a child under the age of 18.
Ew, you had me at indecent exposure, and then it just trailed off from there. And I'm
Yeah.
not a fan anymore.
Yeah. So he was sort of out of the public eye until 15 days before the Ricin letters. And then his wife bailed him out. And he obviously, got on TV, said, this is not what it looks like, blah, 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 as everyone does. In the meantime, the feds did a trash pull on his house. They found a paper that matched what the Ricin letters were printed on. At his karate studio, they found a coffee grinder in his garbage. They felt like they now had their man. On April 23rd, a search team went to his house in the martial arts studio. They found computers with orders of castor oil beans on them, manuals about creating ricin, a face mask. They found in his house traces of ricin, etc. While this was all going on, Kevin spent an additional 7 days in solitary confinement before he was freed. All charges were dropped against him on April 27th of 2013. Later that day, Dutschke was charged with attempted use of a biological weapon. On June 3rd of 2013, he was indicted by a federal grand jury on 5 counts. He was indicted for producing and using the deadly toxin as a weapon and using the mail that threatened President Obama, Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi, and Lee County Judge Sadie Holland. They were his arch enemies because of him losing the election, and he ended up framing Kevin because they were enemies with the same people. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, and it's sort of brilliant.
So in May of 2014, Dutschke pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Kevin then gained notoriety. He was on the Today Show, Inside Edition, you name it, he was on it. He and his brother put on a new show for Double Trouble, back together again for one night after 20 years. He claims he's no longer active in the world of conspiracy theories, but I'll let you watch the ending and be the judge, as he now believes that Everett Dutschke was also possibly framed by the Obama administration due to data that he had from the year 2012. And that is the story of the 2013 Washington, D.C. Ricin letters and Mississippi Ricin letters.
That's crazy. Okay, so this is sort of embarrassing, but when you gave me the hints, I had no idea what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also watched part of that series,
Oh, have you?
and I just forgot. It was probably because we were drinking.
Yeah.
But I never finished it. And I actually really enjoyed it. Like, it was pretty, like, the twists and turns, pretty shocking.
Yeah.
But I never completed it, so I finally know. So I have
Yeah.
no idea how that turned out.
And it just shows, and what's interesting is they never went back in the series to the elephant but I'm thinking that the elephant was maybe like a symbolization of the Republican Party, maybe, and that perhaps Dutschke shot the elephant before he sent the Ricin letters because he was going mad and he was a Republican and he thought that these Republican leaders had turned on him now, and he just flat out hated the Obama administration. So that was, why it went to President Obama. But then also, they never really circled back to like if anything happened with the body parts, like if that was a thing at that funeral home, that the state representative owned and that sort of thing. So you kind of wonder if that sort of got pushed under the rug. But I would be interested to know if body parts ever became, like a thing there. After it. But I feel like if it did, that it would be on this Netflix documentary.
Yeah, maybe there's a part 2 coming.
Yeah. Corruption in Mississippi.
The Limbs of Tupelo.
Yes, the limbs of Tupelo.
The kidneys of Tupelo. We'll see.
All of the above.
Yeah. And some of the below.
It makes me want to, I don't think I've ever been through Tupelo, Mississippi, which is really surprising to me because where I grew up in Southeast Arkansas is very, very close to the Mississippi border. And it's like an hour and a half from Memphis. And Tupelo is so close to there that I'm surprised that I never went to see where Elvis Presley was born and all that kind of stuff, because I have been to Graceland and stuff and Memphis, but have never been to Tupelo. But I'm sure it's a interesting place to say the least.
How does that song go? I've been to paradise, but I've never been to me. Remember that? It's from like the late 70s or early 80s.
I don't know that I do remember that.
It's one of those like adult contemporary, like soft. It's terrible.
But it sounds like it's awful.
But yeah, it's pretty awful. So yeah, Tupelo is almost the halfway point between Memphis and Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
So when I lived in Savannah going to school, and I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I would do that drive pretty frequently. You could either go that way down through Birmingham, or you could go north through Nashville. But I kind of liked going through. I think it was a little bit shorter going through Birmingham. So I went through Tupelo. I never stopped, but I remember driving through there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like it's a very crooked place. I will tell you that by watching the documentary. And that doesn't surprise me at all, given that I grew up in the South and I know how things are around there.
Yeah. That was fun. That was a good one.
I thought it was a little bit like fun and funny. And it's hysterical when you watch the docuseries whenever they're reporting on, like how this actually turned out. Like the news anchors and stuff are just like losing their shit laughing about it because it's so ridiculous with like the Elvis impersonators and all that kind of stuff. I personally do not remember this Ricin thing happening in 2013. I know that like Ricin letters, or they've thought before that letters that looked suspicious, have been delivered, but then it was like a false positive or whatever, and it was nothing. But I truly do not remember this at all, and didn't know about it until I saw this Netflix docuseries. And so I thought it would be something a little more fun politics wise. I mean, it wasn't fun for Kevin Curtis. He literally, can you imagine like all of these people raiding your home and like Ricin, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't even like rice. Like he thought they were talking about rice.
Yeah.
What an idiot. I mean, it makes him sound like an idiot, but I would be the same way too. Be like, what are you talking about, rice?
Yeah. The part I watched was through The part he's talking about, like, yeah, I don't even like rice. Sometimes I'll have it in my Chinese food
Yeah,
or whatever. I was like, what?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I need to finish that series.
yeah.
It actually was really compelling.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, Everett Dutschke, like, he ran, like, a really, nasty, election or, campaign during that election for Congress that he did. Like, he superimposed, like, the, Senator Holland, who he was competing against, he, like, superimposed him on Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard and
Uh-huh.
stuff. And when he did, he actually does look like him.
Well, maybe I'll do that for our YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, it was really funny. You could probably capture it from the Netflix series, but anyway, that is the story of the 2013 Ricin letters, and who knows if Everett Dutschke was framed by the administration? He claims that he was. So, but he is sitting in prison. I believe he's at a federal prison in Arizona. I'm pretty sure that he is.
I should go interview him.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. He sounds like a real piece of work, as does Kevin Curtis, by the way. I mean, they're both nutty. I mean,
Yeah.
just to get into the feud that they did, and they were both like doing karate, and I don't know, it's just ridiculous. Oh,
I would say this story made me hungry for like southern like soul food, but it made me hungry for Chinese food, and now I want some rice.
yes, rice, but no rice in your rice.
No, please no. I
Uh,
mean, it's been sort of a shitty week, so maybe it would be good to just end things, but I think not that way.
no, I don't think I want to go by rice, and
No.
I think I could find a better way.
Mm,
Could find a better way.
exactly.
Do you have any current events at all, by chance?
Oh, well, I don't, but you do. We should definitely talk about what's her face, Jocelyn Wildenstein.
Oh my gosh, yes. She died on New Year's Eve. I can't believe that. At the age of, what was it? 80. Well, you know what? I don't know how old she is because the New York Times a day ago said that she was 79. Wikipedia says that she was 84. I believe I read that she somewhere was 86, but she had so much work done. I don't know that she would, I mean, that she wouldn't lie about her age. But she died in her sleep, they say, of a pulmonary embolism or something
Right.
like that on New Year's Eve, which is really sad. She went to sleep next to her partner, and he tried to wake her up to get ready for their New Year's celebration, and she was cold and dead. Um, I actually saw her twice in person
And you
at
took a photo at one
and I
point.
took a photo at one point, which I should send to you to put into this episode. It's
Yeah.
not it's kind of from far away, but I did talk to her. She was very lovely to me, and told me that I was fat. I think she said I was fabulous. I can't remember what she
For a
said, but
second, I thought you were going to say fat, and I was like, wow, that's rude.
no, no, she was very sweet and very petite, like short, like my short, and looked really good for her age. I mean, considering everything that she had done to her face. Anyway, she was somewhere between 79 and 86. And I heard that her cremated remains are going to be interned at her ranch in Kenya. Who knew she had a ranch in Kenya? But lovely, lovely woman. Rest in peace.
Yes, rest in peace. Miss Jocelyn Wildenstein. Is that how you
Yeah.
pronounce it?
I believe so.
Man, I used to love reading all of the like delisted and Perez Hilton. They would feature her from time to time back in the
Mhm.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They would always say such mean things about her, like, honestly, but she did look so overly done. I mean, it's I don't know if you saw pictures of her from when she was young, but she was gorgeous.
No, I'll have to find
Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. I mean, there was a picture of her like as a teenager, and she had like a pixie haircut. She looked like she was a ballerina or something like that. And she was just, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
unbelievably beautiful.
Oh yeah, she was gorgeous. What did she was she really trying to look like a cat?
Well, they said that her ex-husband, who was a billionaire, loved cats, and that he didn't like people aging or getting old. So I don't know. But she did end up looking like a
Yeah.
cat or worse, actually. But rest in peace. Here's to you, Jocelyn Wildenstein.
I would
Stein.
cheers, but I'm running on empty.
Well, that means it's probably time for us to cut this off.
It is. It's quit time. Well, Amanda, that was a great story.
Thank you.
Listeners, you can continue listening to these stories wherever you're listening to it right now. Rate, review, and subscribe if you have not done so. We've told you so many times.
Yes.
And if you've made it this far, it's probably you're here for a reason. Whether it's you loved it or you absolutely hated it so much. Rate us 1 star or 5 stars. I don't care. Hit subscribe and continue feeling those feelings for us. You can listen to back episodes. If you are on YouTube, check out Apple and Spotify or the website, theforbiddenpod.com. Our episodes go back over a year now. What am I missing? Oh, email us your dick pics, stories or feedback to hello@theforbiddenpod.com. Keep them short unless it's a dick pic, and then preferably long.
Long and different angles, if you will. Yeah, if you could, something like that.
We want to see the nuts. Do you have a foreskin or no? Either is acceptable.
Yeah, we don't care.
We don't say no.
No.
That's where the syphilis comes from. And then if you're not following us on social media, you can do that on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at The Forbidden Pod. And I think we covered it all.
I think we did.
Then on
Sorry.
that note,
Sorry, someone just walked into my house, so the dogs are barking again, so I had to go on mute for a minute. Oh, well, Blake, thank you so much for listening to that wild story, and
yeah, thank you for the memories.
I hope that it met or exceeded your expectations.
It did. I'm thoroughly satisfied. Oh, do you want my tips? Just the tips for my next story.
I do, please.
Okay. I didn't write them down, but I think okay, so men, sex, and journalism. It's sort of broad, sort of vague, but it
All
pretty
three
well
I'm interested in.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty well sums up what it's going to be. So
awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear what it is.
Yeah.
Well, Blake, thank you for your tips, just the tips. And we will also thank you, users. I'm thinking about work. Listeners, listeners, we always
thank you.